coming off of almost a 3-year layoff. There was just a vary of expectations of what we could see from Jermall. Some people thought he would be super rusty. Some people was like, Jose's not a threat, so it doesn't matter what we saw. I saw a guy who was, sharper than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
He and then I saw as the fight went along, he was picking up his rhythm, getting better. It was still disappointing that it wasn't 12 rounds and two more rounds. I don't know, because it didn't look like he ever really was gonna go for it. But in 2 more rounds, he might have stopped José Benavidez. So what did you think when you watched that fight?
Yeah, he was definitely a little bit more sharper than I anticipated, especially someone being out the ring for about 3.5 years. So I like this combination punching at times as well. But it looked like he also was trying to maintain, conserve energy. I mean, José Benavidez got a chin, bro, because he took some hellacious shots. Not gonna lie, he was taking some big right hands, the jab, the hooks.
Some stiff jabs when he came in, snapping his head back.
Yeah, he got hurt in the first round, like off of like the jab. I was like, oh my God, already? So but he survived. He nearly almost got stopped, I think, in the last round, but the ref kind of intervened and gave him a couple of seconds to kind of recoup or gather his faculties. But yeah, Jermall, of course, doesn't look nowhere near how he looked in his prime, but I think this is a good starting point for him, to really bounce back, but I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely an interesting fight. Clearly he went through a lot. I don't know his issues, right, but his mind state is probably better than probably what it was, and time only tell. So just really looking to see what's gonna be next for him. What you think is gonna be next for him?
Yeah, we'll touch base on his mind state in a second, but for me, I would like to see him have another tune-up, but just based on the way things are going, contracts, contractual obligations and stuff, there may not be time for another tune-up. So I would say I would like to see him fight Caleb Plant, not only just because of the drama and Caleb putting hands on him and stuff, just because I think it's an interesting matchup stylistically. You got a guy who, he can really move, he can make you miss. He'll hit you back. He was not the biggest puncher, right? But I do think that's a very, very big test coming to the 168-pound division. He's no slouch. But it's like, is Maul's mind ready for that? Because you can't do what you did this fight. You can't come in 3 pounds overweight and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And then, people could easily say, okay, he came in at 166, he'll make 168 easily. But it's not even about that. It's more about the discipline. You can tell the discipline wasn't there, because now that it's 168, when he's trying to get to that, he might do whatever he did this time and end up not making 168. It's more about the discipline than, I think the size in this situation.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And then for him to leave and come back and gain even more weight is crazy. He didn't do that. Yo, he clearly didn't care. He clearly did not care for this fight. I think he just didn't care. He was like, I'm just go in and do what I got to do and just move on. So, but I think for Caleb Plant, I think he'll probably be more locked in. It's just a matter of just whether or not he'll be prepared for that fight. So
I think and I just think it's a good matchup stylistically. And then I think Jermall, Caleb may be favored just because of everything, but for Jermall, you have a chance. We've seen Caleb hurt in the past by big punchers, so you definitely got a chance. And then don't get me wrong, Jermall can box too. He's a really good fighter, but I think a quick fight would really help him. And if they want to push towards that Canelo fight, then maybe he doesn't have time for another tune-up. But if he could, I would say take another tune-up, then get in there with Caleb. You know what I mean? I think that'd be great for him. But when I think about my state, just one thing that was just missing last night, and I kept looking, and I never saw Jermell. Then it was confirmed Jermell was not there. And then I know obviously they're not on the best terms. It was like stated before Jermell's last fight, but we still see them all show up. We saw them embracing the back, but I don't know, bro. Like, I mean, his after fight speech was like very emotional. I felt real bad for him, but even worse than that, just not seeing Mel there, it just felt so weird, man. How did you feel seeing that?
Yeah, because the initial thoughts is like, I think most people probably think like, oh, Jermall came to your fight, even though you guys weren't in the best of terms. He came, showed support, for your Canelo fight. Why don't reciprocate the same, right? Whatever y'all got going on, just show up to his fight, and then y'all don't have to speak or whatever the case may be. So my thoughts was like, man, like he really didn't show up. Like I was like, oh man, I don't know if that played a role as to why he was emotional, right? I don't know. Or maybe I'm missing something, right? Maybe something going on behind the scenes between their relationship that may have gotten, maybe the friction has gotten worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the Canelo fight till now. Maybe things have gotten worse. I mean, it's hard to say, but just from the information I have between the two, I'll probably say, man, I ain't gonna lie, Jermall, I think he should have definitely showed up and support his brother. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
that is your brother at the end of the day, and I'm sure they both love each other, to a degree. But
yeah.
who knows? What about you?
I think what is like one thing I'm thinking is what if Mel's just not ready to show himself after the Canelo fight, similar to
True.
Errol not showing up to Mel's fight. I know they're not biological brothers, but they're stable mates. They're very close. Errol supports Mel supports Errol, but like Errol's pretty embarrassed after what happened to him, and he's probably just not ready to make public appearances. And
That's the excellent point.
even though Mel didn't take that level of beating physically, he's taking a beating verbally. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's like, yo, waste the time. You just went in there to get a check. You understand the third. And I really don't know. I just think he got in there. I think he overestimated himself, similar to what you said about Andre. And I think once he went in there, he found out the difference very quickly between him and Canelo. You know what I mean? But what if that's just like mentally weighing on him? Like, damn, you know what I'm saying? I went out like that, because I'm sure at some point, even if it's just highlights, he has to see it, and it was just like, yo, man, you know what I'm saying? People are like, yo, lions only, nah, you a kitty cat. I'm just all types of crazy stuff on the internet, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So he could just not be ready to make an appearance, but it could just be the friction, you know what I'm saying? It could be the friction. There's a lot going on there, and I know
Well, it
they
could be both. Both
Mhm.
can be true.
Yeah, but man, I hope they get it right, man. I hope they get it right because
Mm,
it just felt wrong, bro. It
yeah.
felt wrong. And then, but you know, something was definitely going. And then I know this probably isn't a big deal because Terrence has said on multiple occasions he was cool with the Charlos before him and Errol was on a collision course. But just when I seen Terrence on stage just chopping it up with Maul, I'm just like, damn. I'm like, it was kind of weird to me because personally I know how the Charlos ride for each other, and Terrence been talking crazy about Mel, and I just feel
Right.
like the way that I feel like Maul would have like pressed him or something. So and I was just like, man, something feels weird about this. And then so when it was fight night, Mel wasn't there. I'm like, yo, something's going on. And then just to hear him in the post-fight press conference, like, yo, if anybody talks to my brother, tell him I love him. He's not answering my calls, but tell him I want to talk to him. I was just like, man, this is a man who's really down right now and then going through a lot, and it just seems to be piling on. Nevertheless, he kicked José Benavidez's ass. But but
Yeah.
yo, but it was just hard to watch, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not a lot of people are going to ask this, but what do you think about Jose? Should he hang it up, or is he just always going to kind of be like a middle of the pack fighter? Do you think?
I think he's always going to be at this point. He's always going to be a middle of the pack fighter. I know he probably for himself, he probably feel like he got a lot to prove, right? But at this point, he's always going to be a middle of the pack fighter and probably just hang it up, right? I'm not sure if he's trying to compete with his younger brother. I don't know what it is, but I think at this point in his career, he can't just be going in there and taking, hellacious beatings. But maybe he goes back down, right, and fight some of those fighters. Who knows?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's tough to say.
Yeah, it was crazy, because at this 163 catch weight, it makes you think. It's like, okay, are you gonna go up from here? You're gonna go down from here? Probably down because he intended to fight at 160, but it's just like I don't know, like I feel like a more focused and active Charlo would have stopped him. You know what I'm saying? So some of those guys at 160 who are active and
No,
fighting all the time, I just don't really want to see anybody get hurt. You know what I'm saying? I know he said it was hard for him to make 154, but I think 154 is probably a better weight class for him.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's kind of, I guess that's all I have in that regard. So definitely, jump in the comment section about Charlo. What do you think about his performance? Did he look good? Was it disappointing? Who do you want to see him fight next?